definitely want to hit this head on. David, it's good to be back with you, man.
Yeah, man. Happy Monday. You're right. Summer. It's upon us. The days are getting shorter. So what are we going to do with that? We're going to block our time, aren't we?
Yeah,
We'll get some
absolutely.
high value activities.
Articulate what those are so that when the time comes, we know exactly how to measure success. I like what Andrew says all the time. He said in sales, it's a resilience game. And when you go to bed at night, there's not necessarily a task that you've checked off saying, I had a win. But there absolutely can be tasks in your time block that you've been obedient to, that you did what you believed would generate a sale because you pre planned it. And you said this proactive activity will generate the sale. Therefore, I'm going to be obedient to that. Somebody said obedience is our responsibility. The outcome is not. So when you can hang your hat on that peg, it feels really, really good. But I think the loss of momentum happens first and foremost, David, in our minds. And if we don't put the armor on and insulate our mindset with proactivity, with things that we can absolutely control, then we're going to feel like we're losing. We're going to feel like we're losing momentum and not gaining ground. So anyway, I'm excited to dig into how to block time for highest value activities. And this month and probably over the next 2 months, just keeping it here, David and me taking us back to some sales fundamentals over the summer months. And then we'll have our guests circuit back in the fall. So David, I'm excited to dig into this one.
Yeah, super
Before we,
important.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's just super important, especially now with, the close of the first half of the year upon us, the last few days. We had a short month and 10 days of it were over the weekend. So maybe that helps realtors and those that are out there. But B2B, we lost some time. So now how are we going to really make the second half count and, through our discipline, through our habits, and really understanding what's going to drive that. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. We got a lot of ground to cover, but before we do some housekeeping, everyone asked for the recording afterwards, so please jump over to YouTube. Energy for Sales. We teach a lot of folks about building a channel, and we thought instead of just having these stored in a private database somewhere, these Energy for Sales lives are what we call trifecta facing. So real estate agents, mortgage bankers, and title agents. And we even have people in healthcare and other automotive and other industries join David from our past. So this is public. It's over on our Energy for Sales YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe. I think we have more shares now of videos than we have subscribers. So subscribe so you'll get those notifications when our recording is uploaded. But all of these land there so you can rewatch later or share with somebody in your network. And we just want to, again, shout out huge to FNF and just the empowerment. I call it the Fidelity Firepower, and empowering their entire channel, all the channel partners with Fidelity. And I'm so grateful to be here with the family of companies and empowering us to do this. So thank you, FNF. And then as we get going too, so many of you guys, this was one of the highest requested recordings with our friend Justin from last month. So jump over to the channel on YouTube and find Navigating Objections and Closing the Deal. Justin is so very deep. We've already had many ask for him to come back, dig deeper, and that will probably happen for us in the fall. All right. And then last but not least, before we jump into the topic, please save the date. If you are in the Mid-Atlantic region, October 1st and 2nd, join Andrew and myself along with the Top Shot Media folks and then some local real estate leaders as we talk for 2 days deep workshop style about what it's going to take in the new sales of real estate. Accelerate, do, not try. And so make sure you just save the date. More details to come if you're part of this Energy for Sales family. All right, man. David, this subject is near and dear to my heart because a lot of times we get asked, how do I manage my time? I need to learn to manage my time. And David, when I asked you this probably 15 years ago when you were mentoring me when I first entered sales, you say, well, Tim, it's not about time management. What'd you tell me, David?
It's about behavior management.
Wow.
And if you think about it, it really is. We have to manage our time, but it's a behavior. It's it's putting things on our calendar, staying staying true to our word that we felt that was important to be doing that at that time. So it really is a behavior management. Most folks have always come to me like you did, Tim, many moons ago. Hey, can you help me with time management? Kind of, sorta. I can help you with your behaviors, and part of that is identifying your high value activities, putting things in your calendar, blocking time for the stuff that's important. When Tim, when you and I were talking about this last week, and it was great seeing you here in person. It's been a while. Um, we talk, we talk about these high value activities and putting things into a calendar and to-do lists and all of that. So we're gonna wrap these things up in a pretty nice bow today. And definitely appreciate everyone joining in and participating on the call. And I
Yeah,
think we also have some questions as well, as we normally do.
absolutely, absolutely. As somebody was saying, it froze. Did anybody else have a freeze? Anybody else have a freeze? Not sure if it's internet here, there, or everywhere. I saw a report the other day about global outage. Global outage. Anybody else freeze? And have we been good? I had a freeze as well. Helen, thank you. Okay. So there was a freeze on the internet somewhere, somehow. I had a freeze as well. No internet. Yes, had a freeze. Okay. So we had freezes around a little bit. So we talked about some announcements. Just go back and watch the recording for those first three. You haven't really missed much yet on the lesson. So I think we're good. We'll keep trucking here. But HVAs and time blocking. David, I believe these two have to go hand in hand. So high value activities, HVAs, high value activities. What are yours? What absolutely generate sales for you? What activities generate leads for you? And then the next question is, once you have those listed, the next question is, how often am I doing those activities? So in sales, as David and I coach, we find both are usually lacking. Some are completely missing. What I mean by that is, what are your high value activities? And David, I find that over the last 3 years, especially in real estate, we've fallen into a couple of buckets. We've fallen into what I call an inbox reaction mode. The pandemic, the refi boom, it taught us to be reactionary. We had so much flying in our inbox nonstop, day and night. So that's number one. Number two is we're in a post-pandemic era. And I think a lot of people are trying to find themselves in or they're trying to find their way back to pre-pandemic. They're trying to go back to what they knew because the world's opened up again, Tim. What they're missing is the millennial and Gen Z predominance in our industry. And I think, David, what we're finding is we don't know what a high value activity, or at least an evolved high value activity, is. So I think we're going to start there. What are your high value activities? Because taking inventory on that and creating and coming up with a list of what you're going to insert. If you don't have anything to insert into your calendar, and spoiler alert, the number one sales tool, our calendar, if we don't have anything to insert like high value activities, other people and other things will absolutely insert themselves. If I don't put it on my calendar, somebody else will take that time, or that time will just burn away. It's not stopping. So high value activities start with a set of good HVAs, and then the secret sauce is just finding out how to fit those in. And then some of I believe the emotional intelligence that has to go along with carving that out, creating no-fly zones, quiet time, some focus. So David, we're going to jump into all of that. So, but we say it like this: time blocking is like the gym. It's not so much about, okay, I have this hour for prospecting and I literally crushed it. Because if you're new to time blocking, you are not going to crush it in the first time you do it. But what time blocking is, it creates a space similar to your gymnasium, where when you go there, you are much more likely to create toned muscles than had you not had a time block. So you look at time blocking as creating mini gyms on your calendar to show up and exercise. You exercise a certain way, or a certain day, leg day, shoulder day. You exercise certain HVAs in those time blocks. So let's shift perspective just a little bit. Time blocking is all about exercising sales muscles and giving yourself the space, the place, the intention, and then also we'll talk about accountability with that as well. So the number one habit, time blocking, to leverage our number one sales tool, our calendar, and increase our focus. David, what would you add to that when it comes to time blocking?
You hit it pretty strongly. I think that also, look, we need breaks during a day. We need a lunch break. Most states dictate that you have a lunch break. We need a mental break. Put those things in too. I mean, those are realities, the things that we have that we need to do during the day. We're not machines. Not any of us. Maybe Tim can work 16 solid hours and get the same productivity out of hour 16 as he did in hour 1. So, when you're looking at your high value activities, you might think, well, lunch, is that really a high value activity? Yes, it is. A break, getting away, clearing your mind, getting back to into your zone. Those things need to be in there. Now, are they dominant during the day? Are you going to have 6 hours of that? Hopefully not. There are things that come up. We need to be flexible. There are needs of us on a personal side, but we have to start with a solid plan. And those high value activities are going to get us closer to a new client, get us closer to an existing client. It's all going to move us closer to a connection to a sale. And so, our days should be spent with that. There are things we have to do.
Yep.
We have to address and have hygiene in our inbox. Do we do that 5 minutes all day long, or do we set a time to do that? So even things that, Salesforce hygiene, CRM hygiene, those things are important things. Now, do they need to be done, in the middle of the day when you should be prospecting, and that's a good prospecting block? Do your metrics, adjust it, but put it all in there. If you're not sure if it's high value or not, but if it's something that's taking your time, put it in there and see where it logically should go.
And I threw a question in the chat, and please use the chat, folks. But I threw a question just to self-analyze, or if you're in a conference room full of people, like several of you messaged earlier and said you were, and you're waiting on the webinar to start. Can you think of a time when disciplined focus significantly improved your work output or sales results? A little bit of a rhetorical question, right? It's usually when we had that focused, disciplined time. And maybe we haven't scaled that yet, but we carved it out, or a manager allowed it to be carved out, or pulled us all into a conference room to do, a bullpen style phone call, call-a-thon, whatever it was. We had the most results. It was like this surge effect in our sales. Or we had a big event and we're driving for people to come to the event. And then after that, just kind of tapers off for a couple of months. We know when we focused, it got done, and tremendous things happened. The other thing, to your point, David, about just some email hygiene or just some response, what I call servicing. You have to service your current customers. You have to pass things off internally and coordinate. And it feels like sometimes you're that 1920s or 19 whatever it was, a telephone operator plugging in just all day long, plug, connecting. Right? But can you actually go and time block some of that? Think about when you're on vacation and you've checked in because something urgent was going down, and you checked in and you had 25 emails, and within 30 minutes, you just chopped right through those, delegated, looped somebody in, this, that, and the other. I'm out. I'll be back in the office this time. I'll get back to you, and you were focused, and you got it done in 20 minutes because your spouse was frowning at you over here for logging in on your vacation day, right? You're all with me on that. You're all chuckling, right? Why? You were absolutely focused because you had to be. So by having a set of high value activities that you say are, and here's the key word, and I put this in the email this morning, non-negotiable. These are communicated not just with yourself, because if you'll be honest, and I'm going to have a vulnerable moment here, Tim Hooper is the first person Tim Hooper cheats on. It is what it is. Okay. If I say I'm going to do something in my own head, and then somebody else comes into my inbox, emergency, I'm going to jump and do that for them. So we're going to talk about accountability, communicating your HVAs with your leadership and your team so that you cannot fail. All right. So as we go along here, this is the litmus test. My list of HVAs, they create opportunities in my pipeline that result in revenue for my business. You have to answer those two. High value activity has to answer those two things. They're creating an opportunity, that's the proactivity in it, into my pipeline. I have a pipeline. that then result in revenue for my business because I have a sequential order to my pipeline and I'm going to methodically work those opportunities. How many times do we generate an opportunity, David, and then the follow-up's lacking? We're not talking follow-up today, but time block the follow-up, time block the initial outbound call, time block the second step in the sequence, time blocking all of the high value activities that take something from lead gen to lead capture all the way into deal close. That is the high value of sales. It has to create opportunities in our pipeline that then generate revenue for our business. All right. So that's kind of the litmus test if you're wondering what is a high value activity. Now, we'll go through a list. All right. Now I have a little funky coffee symbol in the background. And somebody called me out the other day on a webinar. They said, I'm not a coffee drinker. It's okay. It's okay. You could be a tea drinker. You could be a frosted lemonade drinker. Did anybody try the frosted lemonade from Chick-fil-A? I think that would be a great sales strategy. Hey, I would love to meet you, David, over the next summer months. Let's go to Chick-fil-A for a frosted lemonade. No, I'm just kidding. But if coffee's not your thing, figure out what is. But high value activity really for me revolves around getting belly to belly or doing activities that get me belly to belly, whether that's virtual or in person with my prospective client. And then high level presentation, high level, challenging of an entire team. Once that prospect is interested, how can I embed myself, my company, my organization into theirs? How can we co-create together? These are high value. So we'll run through this list. I'm sure there's more that you can add, but as we're going through, just think of high value activities. And also, have you built a list? Have you created an inventory of your non-negotiables? David, what would you add before we run steps 1 through 11 here?
No, I think the list is up. I do think, again, things that might not seem to be a high value activity, say for instance, emails. For me, if I don't get caught up on my emails 30 minutes before my day starts, then my mind is, I'm not 100% in whatever I'm in. I still am thinking back. I didn't get through all my emails. I wonder what's sitting there. So, even something as, I won't want to say mundane, but as at times not the most important thing becomes, for me, the most important thing in that time block. Like I cannot start my day properly without cleaning up whatever might have come in at the end of the day. So as you go through this list and we talk about these things, even some things that in the middle of your prime time is not the block for it, has to be there somewhere. Just has to be there. And you've got some great things up here. You're researching. How are you learning about the industry? How are you learning about your competition? How are you learning? What are you learning about your future clients, your prospects, your targets? Those are all, important high value activities that are going to move your business forward over that time period. So I think that's about it. Again, you got, list those things and then figure out where is the best place for them. For me, like spending an hour on email in the middle of the day when I could be prospecting, not a high value activity, but it starts as the most important 30 minutes of my day. I got to get level set. I can't let my mind wonder what's behind email and door number 3.
I'm glad you brought up email again. We addressed that early on, right? It's that like reactive posture a lot of us find ourselves in. A high productivity coach told me years ago, and I still stick with it. Some days it's better than others, and I do want to throw this out there. Time block the email, like David said. Time block. That's a gymnasium, but show up and actually crush the workout. Don't let it carry on. So, for instance, before the day starts, addressing anything that came in the day prior, delegating certain things, promising responses, getting some internal folks working on certain things. Coordinating a phone call later in the week based on something else. I like to look at email, and if I can answer in a brief phone call with somebody, maybe it's more difficult, more challenging. I'm going to plug in. I'm going to say, hey, I'll give you a buzz this afternoon around 3, knowing that I have drive time from 3 to 4. And in my drive time, I'm plugging in. I'll give you a buzz about this. Here's a link you can look up online. Should answer your question, but I'll give you a buzz on this at 3. And I just have my little list. I'm just jotting names. And when I get on the road, boom, 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 cranking out phone calls as replies to those, which truthfully takes it even deeper because I went from an inbox item to now building a relationship, exchanging vocals. but I promised them a phone call and I called. Now, do I get a voicemail? Sometimes, oftentimes I do. And then I'll just give them my next time block. Hey, give me a call when, and we'll just move from there. So, but having a designated time to go check in with your inbox allows you to check out of your inbox during the critical moments of other time blocks. So David, I'm glad you brought that up, but let's,
Yeah. And
number
I'll
one,
give you
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not, neither of us are perfect yet.
100% not.
No, we're not perfect. What I find myself, if I wander into my inbox when it's not the time for me to do that, and I need to really be doing other things, what I find myself doing, I'm thin slicing. I'm reading a little bit and I'm marking it as unread and marking it as unread and marking as, I mean, who won there? I didn't win. You know, so again, in the proper times, like I have to go address it, but in a time where, oh, I've got a couple minutes, let me go do this. It was a waste of a couple minutes. I should have
You're
probably just,
grazing, you're not really digesting, and you're not able to actually give good action. And then that stuff literally bogs your energy. It creates friction
Yep.
for the proactive task you're about to go do. The other danger is, I'll just bring this up since we're talking about email. The other danger is going to your inbox to find something. You need a PDF, you need to go address, you need to go find something. In those moments, I mean, it takes work to change your mindset into, I'm going in, I'm coming back out. Like, go in there, use the search function, don't scroll, use the search, Lisa, PDF, rates, whatever you're looking for, search, find it. And then inevitably, and I'm just another vulnerable moment here, I'll find something. I'll be like, oh, did I ever follow up with that? Did I ever? And then I'll like unmark or flat, like chill. If you have your high value activities mapped and you're logging your data in the CRM to check in, weekly, and those time blocks for prospecting, then that other Lisa email that popped up when you did your search, that's gonna, you'll get to that. Like, chill, go in, be super focused. So if you have to go into your inbox outside of the time block, then be super focused using the search function. Now, I will say, number one, a lot of salespeople, I think, either fall into two categories. They research and they have what I call analysis by paralysis. They're just constantly researching. Is this a good fit? Is this a good prospect? We see this happen. And I would rather say, look for a few high value indicators that would say this person is a good fit. Look at some mutual connections, build a case. What's my best approach? And then start approaching that prospect. So a little bit of research is enough, especially in the beginning stages. Now, researching the industry, researching your craft, researching what's coming, reading some news articles, seeing and thinking, how in sales does this apply? How can I alert customers or potential customers about these risks? That sort of research needs to happen. I think it happens almost nowadays automatically because it's thrown into our inbox, but actually being intentional with that. How do I take this white paper and craft a sales narrative out of it for my prospective client? Those things are important. So scheduling time to do research like that, and then also research on your prospects, but don't get hung out in the research. Then I know salespeople, number two, who just kind of wing it. They don't hardly do any research. I don't know which one I'd rather have on my team, David. Probably the one who go out do activity, because they're probably going to learn in the moment plenty, and they probably are learning how to ask good questions and do research, what I call primary research. So in journalism, there's primary research and secondary research. A lot of salespeople get paralyzed in the secondary research. You need to go do primary research, and that's showing up in your potential customers' lives and asking them riveting questions that build awareness about what you have to offer. So research is important, but time block that just like you time block an email. You don't want to do too much of it. Okay. Just like eating too much. You got to have a schedule time to do research. And this research and lead generation, you can generate a lot of leads from a little bit of research. It's really the lead nurture that takes the most amount of time and should absorb a majority of your calendar and your time blocks. So then number two, obviously the one we coach around a lot, is phone calls, personalized outreach, generating response. Okay. This one's the one where sales sequences come into place. This is the one that I would put on my calendar as a residual. It is every week, multiple times a week. I'm doing phone calling, personalized outreach on social media, on text, leveraging some video. Outreach is so very powerful in actually planning the outreach, the 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9 touches in any sequence. That's another training we're probably going to bring, I believe, next month or the following. But outbound outreach. Prospective client visits. Once people are starting to pick up what you're putting down, saying yes, how are you scheduling those things? What is your call to action in the very beginning? Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. So what are you inviting people into? You know, is it a visit with you? Is it a virtual coffee? Right now, David, my number one, virtual coffee. Virtual coffee, especially over the summer months. People can have a virtual coffee with you from Antigua, you know, Indonesia, like wherever they're at in the world. Virtual coffee. That's the post-pandemic sales era we're in. People are all Zoomable. Number 4, presentations, right? What industry events can you go present at? What presentations can you give to a group of decision makers within a prospective organization? If you're entitled here about brokerage, a mortgage bankers association, like what presentations can you do? And then what events can you create on your of yours, right? A lot of you all have been through our successful event training, but events and trainings, okay? Networking. Networking is a high value activity. I also like to say their events. What events are your prospective clients hosting? And how can you be invited? What could you do? What could you do to add value for those? David, before we keep going, because we're about to hit follow-up here, and I know that's like that's your secret sauce, like you're the follow-up boss, but what would you add to trainings, events, and those sorts of things?
I think some of the things that you put, travel, make sure you're blocking everything. You've got on, you know, you've mentioned about prospective client visits. You have to, if you're not doing it in Zoom or Teams, you're going to have to drive there. You're going to have to drive back. Put that stuff in your calendar. There's nothing worse than somebody, you're not doing it and somebody puts, you know, an event that's a meeting on there that is important, but yet you're not in the place you need to be. So make sure, you know, to do that. You know, even in a Teams call, you're going to need some prep time and you need some follow-up time after. Make sure to put those things in there. You know, you're going to probably send a recap email at some point. You've taken notes throughout the visit, whether it's, you know, on virtual or in person. Give yourself the grace to schedule the time to wrap that one up, which goes into the follow-up. But, you know, the most important thing you have today is this follow-up to the most important thing you had either this morning or the last day. You know, devil's always going to be in the follow-up.
Yeah, following up with value. Again, somebody attended your event. Have you given yourself margin? Have you time blocked following up? David, I fall prey to this. We do an event, maybe a survey question comes in, maybe some chatter happens. And it's like, how am I following up with value to circle back and say, hey, I saw you. Thanks for attending. You asked this question. Or just generally, thank you for attending. How can we help you? How can we help move your business forward? Following up with value. After a visit with a prospect, how are you following up with the things you promised? You know, we do an AI training, and we've taught you guys how to build a sales assistant right in AI. If you're interested in that, just shoot us an email. We'll make sure you get plugged in with one of these trainings. But we talked about when you're done with a visit, how to dump your thoughts, just hit record, dump your thoughts. And then that sales assistant organizes them into your follow-up activities first so that tomorrow morning over coffee, follow up from previous day sales activity. So very important. Some follow-up in the moment. I'll get done with a visit. It's a quick connection with my friend David. Somebody needs, I'm going to text David, meet so-and-so, meet so-and-so. That's going to be there. But there's always going to be some level of follow-up that you're going to go back, you're going to create something, or you're going to research, you're going to find something, you're going to present. Doing that follow-up, marking the CRM, triggering yourself in that time block. And then when you get to follow-up time block, crush it, dominate. For me, I have a set hour and a half every Friday where I call it Fridays for follow-up. And I just make sure everything from that week is done or finalized, or I'm looking into the next week, kind of getting ahead of things so that I can close the books on stuff. If I'm late on something to somebody, I'm going to let them know, hey, I am in the middle of work on this. Here's the current status. Expect it from me by Tuesday. I hope this doesn't put up. Nope, all good, Tim, whatever. They're going to hear from me. Follow up on Friday. That's now, again, you might do it anytime, but what I'm saying is I have a time block and I'm going through and I'm chopping through any flags I've made. It's my standard. So for me, I can rest easy during the week on all my other outbound calls and moving around and traveling and speaking. I can do that with margin and with presence because I'm not, I'm missing something or things are falling through the cracks. All right. Relationship building, experiential marketing. So when do you spend time just to go build relationships with your good clients, reaching out for awards. Hey, let's do something together. Or experiential marketing, where maybe you have a prospective client who's close, but you want to wow them. You and the leadership team want to do something. You're going to brainstorm. You put a Zoom call together where you're going to brainstorm something very special for this prospective client to woo them over. And the experiential marketing piece can come into play. Last but not least, administrative tasks. Don't shortchange yourself. If you have licensure to maintain, you have continuing education, you have expense reporting, you have some compliance training. Don't always be the guy in the red on that corporate list that comes out, like or gal. Like, get ahead of that stuff. Build you some time blocks for expense report, for those sorts of things, so that you can take care of your future self. Strategic planning, market research. I believe that all of us are a business owner as much as we want to be a business owner. In fact, I tell people, begin to think like a CEO more than not. What would you do if this was your company? And if you as a salesperson will map out every quarter, David, what we call a start, stop, continue exercise. What's working for me? What's driving business? What is draining my time? What do I need to stop? So what do I need to continue doing that's working well? What do I need to stop that's draining my time? And what are the things I keep putting off I need to freaking start? If you would just go through that, or a SWOT analysis, like for yourself, for your book of business, this is where high value activities should be visited every 90 days. This is strategic planning. So again, a recurrence on your calendar every 90 days that pops up. And when somebody says, hey, can you come out here? Hey, listen, I have an executive retreat I have to be on to plan the next quarter. Oh, who are you going with? Me, myself, and I. Like, no, I'm just kidding. You might actually be going with somebody from your company. They may think it's a great idea and sit down with you and do it. And you hold each other to it. An hour and a half, whiteboarding it, strategically planning the next 90 days. I'm telling you, these are the things that move your business forward and make sure that you're not having blind spots in your business. And then last but not least, this kind of administrative strategic planning and exercise, in my mind, kind of all go into the category of taking care of you, protecting the asset. And my brother, again, he gets on me all the time. He said, bro, protect the asset. You got to rest. Like, exercise I have down. But man, I'll burn the candle on both ends sometimes, David. And I mean, life things happen, life phases, kids, relatives, caretaking, like, we all get it. But you have to at some point just say, I've got to unplug for a minute before I burn out. So protect the asset. David, before we move slides, again, this is a list of HVAs that I live and die by. These are mine. David, you've coached me on many of these. I know there's certain ones I've added to at times. There's plenty more I'm sure people on here can add. But what would you add before we move on into strategically saying no?
I mean, it's a pretty extensive list. And again, these are things that you have found along the way to be those high value activities that have grown your brand, grown your revenue, grown your stature within inside of an organization. There's a pretty exhaustive list, not a lot else. I would say that, get good at taking notes for yourself. That'll, because as you think of something, if you can at least jot it down, as opposed to stopping, I need to do this. Now let me go put it in the calendar, because unless it's a free form time period. So give yourself some time, but do a good job at note taking. We lead a daily huddle, so I'm always filling out things to mention throughout the day, the next morning. But make notes to yourself. That way it helps with your distraction. And, the best laid plan of mice and men. I mean, it's great to start the day with a full agenda and a great plan. Give yourself some grace. Things are going to come up. You're going to need to adjust it, but at least you know what you need to adjust. If I go into the day not knowing what I want to accomplish, I'm very easily going to accomplish nothing. So I actually set out to accomplish exactly what I had set myself up for, which is nothing. But just know that things are going to happen. Be flexible a bit. But there are certain things you just, if you're vowed and determined to do 12 1-hour blocks for prospecting throughout a week, don't cheat yourself there, because you're cheating. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating your family. Those who you truly work for.
Yeah. I like what David, thank you. That's exactly right. Christy, you said you have to be disciplined about phone calls since you have clients in multiple time zones. That's critical. Yes, for those of you running national books of business. We did share what some of the HVAs were. Thanks for that question, Megan. Awesome. Before we move on, I do want to say couple last things. Again, a high productive coach once told me, if you can in the morning before the world gets going, complete your 3 most HVAs. So out of all these, right, all of these HVAs, if you with yourself the night before say tomorrow, like the thing that's burning down right now that I need to follow up on, to, you know, I promised them this by this deadline, I need to get this sent out. That's number 1. Number 2, I still have that campaign I need to hit send on. Number 3 is I need to follow up with these 3 prospects. You know, these are the highest prospect, you know, whatever. These 3, I need to just resurface those emails, whatever it is. So like those 3 things, if you text yourself, so this is my habit. I text myself my top 3 that if I do these tomorrow, tomorrow's a win no matter what. Tomorrow could go to, you know what, in a handbag, but I will win if I do these 3 things. Like that's how ruthlessly send yourself that text message before you go to bed. Have your phone out on the coffee counter, turned up with your alarm clock on, and go to bed. Get up in the morning, go exercise, come back, or if you do your coffee before exercise, fine. I don't. I drink a big glass of water, go exercise, drink another glass of water. I have 2 glasses before my coffee. That's just my non-negotiable. That way I can have a lot of coffee and not feel any guilt. But no, so I come back, and as I'm cooling down, I'm not even dressed. The world's not even up yet. It's like 7:30, somewhere in there. And my coffee's percolating, and I go in, and my thing that I do is in 30 minutes, I see if I can get those 3 things done. Now, sometimes one is like project-based. It's a presentation I have to build. Well, I'll go in and outline the presentation. And then I go in and resurface the 3 emails. Then I go in and do the other. And then I come back during the day and finish up the presentation. But at the end of the day, in that little chunk of time before the world wakes up, 8:30, like everything starts going haywire in my inbox, or the phone rings, or something pulls me in. David, you said it earlier. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But I believe this. If I put intentionality into my calendar and I have it segmented off into time blocks of what's important for me, and I don't necessarily worry about the whole month, I just look at the week. On Friday, I look at my week coming. Do I have what I need? Okay. If you're scheduling client visits, always be scheduling 2 to 3 weeks out. Like if you can keep that pace every Friday, look ahead to the week. And in that week, be scheduling things 2 weeks out. You will start seeing things happening on your calendar that are good if you'll be disciplined in that way. It's not too complicated. But every morning, go crush your 3 highest value activities. So check your email. If to David's point, get crushed through your email, boom, 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 boom. Go conquer your 3 HVAs. For me, I do 3 HVAs first, then I get into the email because email's already gonna start happening. But I'm still hitting email before the world officially has woken up. And I answer everything. And then I'm off to the races with what I said I'm gonna do that day. That, to me, that's a when life's winning. When I'm winning day, right? So that's the time block. Put those segments in to your calendar for email for the stuff that always has to happen. And then insert all the other breaks in your calendar. Insert the prospecting phone calls, the social media. I need to build out these 3 articles, this presence, because when people look me up, they're not seeing anything right now. I need to build that out so they actually want to talk to me. I'm going to do my follow-up in this manner, right? I'm going to build some presentations that I keep putting off. I'm going to register with Deport to become certified to teach CE. Like whatever you keep pushing out there that you think would drive business, start to move that into your calendar. And then if you don't complete in that time block, move the time block out. Well, my boss will see that there was nothing on my calendar if I move that. I've heard it all. I'm like, who cares? You're moving high value activity forward, which means business is going to come in the door. I don't need a perfectly backdated calendar. If I don't get it done in that time block, I bump it out and find a space next week where I'm going to come back to and keep working because I said it was a high value activity, which leads us into Covey's quadrants. David, I know most people know Covey's quadrant, so we don't have to spend a ton of time here, but I will just say very, very quickly, the HVAs, they fit in the green box here. They're not urgent. No one is coming and screaming over your shoulder saying, phone calls, presentations, do research on the market, call more prospects. Now, if our business is hurting, you might be having that fire breathe down your neck. But if it's not, this is what happens. We get into this like business is good. We let off the accelerator. Business is bad, we jam on the accelerator and we're just kind of this start, stop, start, stop, stop. The non-urgent but important, those are your HVAs. If you will implement them in time blocks onto your calendar, then you will find more consistency, okay? The urgent, important, that is absolutely going to naturally happen. Phone calls and email. Time block for those. And then when you have to, then go ahead and jump onto a call or into an email if it is absolutely burning down and you're not quite at your time block, but you know that it needs addressed quickly and briefly. You're going to have that. But I like to say this, 80% executed week is better than 20% or 10% or zero, because I didn't even have a plan. So don't have to be perfect, because that's the enemy of done. But intention will solve so much of the world's problems. The other thing when it comes to urgent and important, those things will suck us in, but also I think there are times when we have to learn that we can absolutely delegate and absolutely call on others within our organization to help, right? And so that's why I think learning to delegate, learning to say no is so very crucial, so that you can say yes to more important things that aren't necessarily urgent. We cannot sacrifice, somebody said, the important on the altar of the urgent. And I think that is what happens oftentimes in sales. When it comes to non-important but urgent, we should absolutely try to delegate this stuff. I mean, it's just not important, but it's urgent. Maybe somebody's, left you a bad review on Google. Well, that might be important for reputation's sake, but maybe loop a marketing person in. Hey, how should we respond? Maybe it's somebody needs a recording from a training you did last week, and you're on the road and you like, do I stop, pull this open? That's gonna take me 15 minutes to just forward that, ask somebody to help. Like, those are the sorts of things. Nothing's burning down, but really learn. And if you could practice anything out of this, take the not important but urgent stuff and learn to delegate. Find a way to ask for help in that. If you could cut that quadrant out of your life, or a lot of it out of your life, you will be so much better off. And then the not urgent, not important, this is where I feel like salespeople will go. They say, okay, I got to do better on social media. Okay, great. So we go over to social media, we start working on an article on LinkedIn, or we're working on a reel for Facebook. And then before long, we start doing this comparative trap, looking at the salesperson down the road at the other company doing theirs. And we start scrolling, we start looking. We've spent an hour and a half goes by and we're scrolling Facebook. Or we went on that morning to engage with our prospects on Facebook, but then we saw a family post over here or this or that. We got tagged in something. Before long, our 30-minute or 15-minute or whatever we set for social turned into an hour and a half, and it sucked us in and it drained us. This is not urgent, not important. So I would say for the not urgent, not important stuff, set absolute boundaries. Set boundaries. David, when it comes to phone and technology and notifications, time blocking can absolutely save us from ourselves.
Yep.
Why don't we touch base on that? Because we are in a mobile first world. We are in a notification heavy world. These applications were built with not us in mind, but the application, the company, and the organization selling ad space in mind. They want us hooked. So I dare not get too passionate here, but I think we all need to understand what's going on when we get sucked in. Even our inboxes in Microsoft have built emotional highs into their technology so that they can keep organizations engaged with selling their technology on, look how useful, look at these stats, look at the engagement. They want you in their stuff. Therefore, the notifications, the dings, they pull us in because we get dopamine hits from them. I mean, this is all neuroscience. I'm not making this stuff up. I've got a resource I'm going to share with everybody here shortly. But what would you say when it comes to the quadrants? I'll get off mine soapbox on the media side for a second. What would you add to any of the 1, 2, or 3, or 4?
I think before we go through the quadrants real quickly, just, the discipline of putting the phone down, the phone is interesting. Most of the time it can be spam calls. The other one, oh my God, what if my child calls and there's an accident? So we're really trained to look at it all the time. I think the furthest away we can get from having it open and in front of us and right there, the better off we're going to be. Now, it's hard to go hour upon hour because we are connected to it. So, again, build in some time to look for that. But regarding the quadrants, I think, anything that's urgent but not important really probably lands in someone else's bucket. So to delegate that stuff, because clients are, we train some clients better than others. Others come to us for everything. And, the quicker we respond and the more we respond, even if it's not us, then we're training them to do that. So getting them away from that, getting them into the hands of people that can really help them best. So I think stuff that normally goes in the urgent, not important bucket is really something that someone else can help them with. Cause again, and it doesn't have to be helped that moment. The slower we are to respond, the more they can go a different direction. And the non-urgent, non-important, that's just an absolute waste. It's hard to even say what to do with that. Um, you know, but unless you seek to understand why someone thinks that you're the person they should reach out to, but the non-urgent, not important, that's your old C priorities that by the time, if you're doing your A priorities first and your B priorities, by the time you got to the C, they normally satisfy themselves. Either they don't need it or they found a way out. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's emails that are like this, not urgent, not
Yep.
important. And yet you feel like maybe you're a little bit of a touch of OCD like me, and you feel like I need to respond and get this out of my inbox. Or it's just a team, like there's an email thread that's going and everyone's chiming in on the team. And you're just, and trust me, I have a whole communications training on this because it can really run away on us in our inboxes for sure. But sometimes just not feeling like, you're going to be all together tomorrow on a Teams call, and a big congratulations went down for somebody having a baby, whatever, and you're just like, it's there, but you just and I have email set up, I just backspace and it archives it. So backspace and then just jot down on your huddle sheet or your notes for tomorrow's meeting, congratulate Joe or whatever.
Yep.
And then you're just not piling on everyone else's inboxes because the whole team's together on a Teams meeting on Monday morning or whatever the case may be. So there's just some not urgent, not important. Not saying a baby showing up isn't important. I'm not saying that at all, but it doesn't drive the business forward to respond to the whole group email when you could do it quickly in those 3 minutes that you all usually have some water cooler talk on the Teams call. So again, time blocking.
Yep.
Be ruthlessly relevant with your business. How do you grow your business and be relevant or be focused with your time? I did put this question in because I think it takes awareness first to understand what we need to actually say no to. So how do you currently manage your daily tasks, and what are your biggest challenges in sticking to your planned schedule? When we poll audiences of rooms of 200, 300, usually it comes down to, well, somebody walks in my office or somebody schedules this on my calendar, or a lot of it has to do with team dynamic. So The reason we ask this question is we have to learn, I believe, how to graciously say no. Okay. I like to say it like this: immediacy to everything is called addiction. You can't be immediate to everything. If you have immediacy to every email that comes to your inbox or every text message that shows up or every phone call, even like there's some phone calls come in, I'm like, I am 10 minutes out from jumping on this training. I need to be in the right headspace. That doesn't look, or, I'll let it go to voicemail and I'll call back. Or I might message, hey, about to jump on a training. Can I call you? Is this urgent? I might message that and then just leave it. And if I see no pop up, I'm not even reading the rest. I'll read it afterwards. So again, immediacy to everything is addiction. So if you think, well, I'm just take care of my customers, I'm always available, you might want to rethink that, because we encourage what we allow. And I promise you, the CEOs out there who run successful large organizations, they're not available to everybody. They're not immediate to everything. Like what are we doing? What are we fooling ourselves with? You have to set boundaries, and also to set expectations. So when I exercise focus with time blocking, I can say, hey, I'm about to run into a meeting here in 10 minutes, because I am. It's a meeting with me and 2 of my colleagues. We're getting on for prospecting calls. I'm about to be in a meeting. Can I call you back at 3? Have a little bit of drive time. Oh yeah, Tim, it can wait. Great, I'll call you back then. Boom. Right? Exercise focus with time blocking. I'm about to run into something. I am. Okay, so that's where time blocking will save me from myself. All right. So learning how to say no, David, there's multiple ways to say no. I think I put the little guy on the screen because I think it's a challenge for some of us to wrap our mind around sometimes saying the word. So I just figured we'd all just watch this guy say it. Right? No, don't interrupt me.
No.
Right? Now, do we have to look that mean? No, 100% not. Do we need to be, nasty about it? No, 100% not. But how about this? Hey, Susan, I'm looping Andrew in. He'll send you the blurb for the AI class. I moved myself to BCC. You guys take it from here. I can't wait to see you next month. One little hack. I'm moving myself to BCC. Oh, I don't have to be the star of that show. No, we don't actually. Loop in your team member. They can always loop you back in if you're needed again, but save yourself from yourself. Like, we don't like delegate, say no. Or, hey, Suzanne, can you come sponsor our golf tournament? You can sponsor a hole, and you've sponsored for the last 9 months, and you've gotten like 2 deals, and you're like, I'm working on this training event right now. I really want that person at my training. I go to all their stuff. They've not been to mine. I could say yes. I probably should. I have a history now of sponsoring that hole. This is real life, guys. These are moments what we've coached people through. Like, say no. Say, hey, this year it wasn't on the list, but here's what we're creating. And by the way, I'll give you a call tomorrow. And on this training, I really want your team at. Or better yet, get ahead of it. You know the ask is coming. Just get ahead of it. Hey, I wanted to reach out, invite you to this training. Unfortunately, this year we're not sponsoring golf holes like we have in the past. But instead, we shifted our focus onto some really high value trainings. Blah 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 blah. Get ahead of that stuff.
Yep.
You know, you're always gonna be asked by a certain person for this or that and the other, and you're dreading when they're asked. When the ask is coming. Oh, I always do that, and it's a very low payoff activity for me. It ties me down all day. They never fill the room. There's 3 people there. I get stuck in a cart with somebody who's an appraiser. They're not even my client. Like, I've heard it all. But what I'm saying is, graciously say, hey, it's not on the list for this year. We have loved doing it last year, but here's what we're doing instead. Be solutions oriented. And if you can, be proactive and get ahead of that stuff. David, I know there's plenty of opportunities to say no. I've mentioned how to get out of an email thread. There's ways to delegate things internally. There's ways when a client asks, or a potential client even asks for something, there's ways to say no. I think there's ways to say no internally with our team, a meeting we don't need to be a part of, maybe even our manager. And you could shoot an email back. Hey, is this something I absolutely need to be a part of? I had something else planned for outbound calls. Is this something I need to be a part of? Is it going to be recorded? Or maybe it's an hour-long meeting on the calendar with no agenda. I despise no agendas. And I'm sorry, that's just a hobby horse. But if there's not an agenda, I will reply, hey, what's the agenda for this meeting? If I don't know, if it's not clearly in the subject line, what's the agenda? Do I need to be there? Or is this going to be a waste of my time? Because I had something else planned. Now, if I didn't have anything else planned, I'm on the road, I might listen in, but I might mark tentative. Hey, I'm going to be driving. I'll listen in if I can. What's the agenda? But there's ways to say no. I've had people say, oh, no, you don't need to be a part of that. It's more for the legal side. Okay, great. Maybe get a recap that you could send to the sales team in 3 bullet points, because we'd all like to know, or whatever, right? You can actually coach upward, somebody said, within your organization by just simply valuing time. David, what would you add when it comes to saying no?
Well, first off, this guy's freaking me out.
Okay, we'll go over
kind
here
of mean. No, I think, organizationally, team-wise, it should be okay to say no, especially when you're prioritizing things that are super important. I think there are ways organizationally, you and I have been around them, Tim, of how an entire company can not bother each other with a no-fly zone. These 2 hours every week, no one bothers anybody else. You stay in your office. If you have to go anywhere, you go to the restroom. They were super productive a couple hours because you owned your time and nobody was going to interrupt it. I think, from way back when, reps in offices and their prospecting blocks, door closed, red sign up, meaning I'm on a prospecting. So it told the world, leave me alone. And if it can wait, please do so. So there are ways to do it. I think that having a culture that being able to prioritize and question or say no to something, is quite all right. Now, I would caution you if there's something that is important and today it is a conflict and you've got a client visit. If it's an ongoing series and something you need to participate in, I would figure out on my calendar how I can make it the next time if it's important. Like you can't say no all the way, and then pretty soon, you're not aware of things that you need to be aware of. But a
100%.
culture of high value activities and the organization knowing that, when my calendar's blocked, it's a high value activity because everyone's got them. I think that, it kind of starts there, that the no becomes easier because they understand it.
Under 100%. I think proactively communicating what your plan is, asking for help. If you've not typically done time blocking, say, hey, I'm going to be implementing over the next few weeks and months over the summer because I do not want to lose momentum in what we're building here. I'm going to be implementing some time blocking so I can focus on high value activities. If you see something on my calendar that you're not, haven't seen before, or if I, shoot you an email, maybe asking, do I need to be a part of something? Just know it's with full intention of just helping to drive our business forward. Just wanted you to let you know your next team meeting, you can bring that up. Just think about it from a standpoint of sales. You're generating revenue for your organization. What could be better and more higher priority than that?
And I think also, definitely if you're leading a team, but if you're an integral part of your organization, crafting some team open time, some times that you are open for anything. Hey, I can't talk to you right now, but if you could wait till 3:30, that's when I have my block of time where it's office hours, it's team open time. Again, a high value activity is definitely to help support the organization and those that you support. So giving some time there, again, and that was not one that was on the list, but having time for your team and those around you that your internal clients, I think is super important.
Well, a couple things too as we wrap. Couple of resources. I promised you guys a resource. Please write this down. Indistractable by Nir Eyal. Nir Eyal. That's his last name, Eyal, his first name, Nir. Indistractable. Big yellow book with a black and blue word across the middle. I am reading it right now, and it is mind shifting. Okay? How technology and how your phone has built addiction into it. How every one of these app developers, how every one of these large organizations has built addiction into our cell phone. And it's basically reclaiming your mind from it and using it as the tool it was designed to be. We're talking about saying no. One of the best things you can say no to is notifications on your phone. You could turn them off. You can only leave your phone call and your text messages going. You can turn off all social media. Social media is not urgent, not important. You should engage it on your terms in your time block. And I engage social media once, maybe twice a day. If I'm twice when I'm in a time block following up with a prospect and it has a DM like for the next step. And even then, like my email had to be super focused to get in and get out. So one thing to help when we have to say no and when we start time blocking is get what I call a calendar comrade. Get somebody going in the same direction who would join you on certain of your time blocks when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to outbound calls, when it comes to sequencing, when it comes to social media and creating content. Get somebody who's going in the same direction in your organization and invite them to do it with you and set something up together, because now you're a team. Now you have a set time on the calendar with somebody. If I've got to show up to the calendar with somebody, I'm a whole lot you're going to have a higher percentage of success because I'm not going to let that person down. Whereas who's the easiest person to cheat on? It's ourselves. So get a calendar comrade and turn off the notifications on our media. Especially social media and others, like just so many notifications now. Every app wants to send you notifications. Just go into settings, turn them right off. And then last but not least, David, maybe we end right here. Maybe if you're in leadership listening to this call, talk about implementing a no-fly zone or corporate quiet time across 1 or 2 hours of the day where the front desk knows that they're fielding calls because the company is in a meeting team-wide. We did this for 2 hours, David, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. in a former life. And it was the best every quarterly planning session. Those were the highest productive hours, always reported. The mental health of the team went way up. It was stamped of approval, basically giving people permission, but you better be working on high value activities. And we are going to field calls for you. We are going to do everything in our power to let you focus on those things. And we are all bought into shared KPIs, and we knew what it was doing to drive our organization forward. So David, what would you say to that as we end? Because it really does need to start. It needs to go bottom up, but also top down when it comes to time blocking.
Yeah, I mean, top down is always easiest. Again, the respect for each other, to not bother them. The excitement, I can remember the excitement of going into that 2 hour block and knowing exactly what you were going to do for that time period, and knowing you're going to be able to get it done. You're going to get 2 hours worth of work done. Was awe inspiring and really helped propel the organization forward. So again, all of those things, high value activities, having an understanding. It's okay to say no. These no fly zones, signs, signs on your door, do not disturb, prospecting, whatever it is. I think those are all super important.
Time blocking. Block time for your high value activities. Time blocking is the gymnasium to exercise the muscles that matter most in sales. Time blocking saves us from ourselves. And time blocking can be a lot of fun. It really can. Don't let it stress you out. Have fun with it. We believe in sales and Energy for Sales, what it's all about. Sales can and should be a lot of fun. Time blocking is a way to keep it fun. So when you find that prospect responds and sets something up with you, if you want to trace it back, it's because you did some level of proactive work. You time blocked it, you did it. And so we're again, working to empower all of us. We are friends in sales. We are in this together. David and I are not perfect at it. We just practice it every day and it works. So time block, send us your questions. The book, Christy, is Indistractable. Indistractable by Nir Eyal. Nir, Nireyal. Big yellow book on Amazon, like $14 and a very good read. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you next month. I think it's July 22nd. We'll see you on the other side. Send us your questions during the month. We'll address them on the show. David, thanks, man.
Great. Take care.